Welcome, everyone. I would like to call this Ways and Means meeting of Tuesday, May 2nd at 4 o'clock p.m. to order. May I have roll call, please?
Ananda.
Present.
Radtke.
Here.
Mailette.
Here.
Mailette.
Here.
Herek.
Here.
Boyer.
Present.
Begic.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Would everyone rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, is there any changes to our agenda? Seeing none. Is there approval for the agenda?
Motion approved.
Support?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. The minutes of 4/11/23.
I'll move them.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Public input. This is the time for public input. Anyone wishing to address this committee, please come to the podium. Raise your name and address. You have 5 minutes. Going once? Going twice? Public input's closed. Okay, petitions and communications. Item A, presentation by County Clerk Kathleen Zanotti.
Hi, everyone. You should have a presentation in front of you. It's short and sweet, and hopefully I can answer any questions you have. But I wanted to come before you and talk about Proposal 22-2. I'm not sure if you've heard much about it. I'm sure your local clerks, if you've been in contact with them, have heard about it, but it's pretty much what we talk about every day in the clerk world. Okay, so the first slide, Okay, so how we got here is from a voter-initiated ballot question organized by Petition or Promote the Vote 2022. They got nearly 660,000 signatures, was eligible to be on the ballot in November of 2022. That ballot proposal passed by a margin of 60% yes, 40% both statewide and in Bay County. So obviously passed by a decent margin in both statewide and in our county. And I think it's important to remember voter initiated too. So it didn't come from the legislature, it didn't come from the clerk world. It's something that the voters told us they want to see. A little bit background about how we vote in Michigan. So Michigan is actually the most decentralized election system in the nation. So that means that here in Michigan, we have the Secretary of State, we have the State Board of Canvassers, we have the county clerks, we have the County Election Commission, then we have city and township clerks, and also local election commissions. The reason why we are so decentralized is done by design, so it also helps us be more secure of an election system. The thought is, and it's true, is that when you have this many people overseeing checks and balances, that you can't possibly corrupt that many individuals. And we also have, those board of canvassers are made up of equal number of Republicans and Democrats on those boards. So we have plenty of checks and balances here in Michigan, but the reason why I point that out is because we are going to be the most decentralized state in the nation to implement early in-person voting. So on that second bullet, it says that Proposal 22-2 establishes an entirely new voting option in Michigan. So there is early voting in other states, like Florida is one that comes to mind, but in Florida, they are not as decentralized as we are. Their elections are run either by the county or the state. I'm not sure exactly which one, but it's not run by local township and city officials. So now in Michigan, because of Proposal 22-2, Michigan clerks will administer all early in-person voting, a mail ballot system, so absentee voting, and election day voting. So we have to implement all three voting styles in our state. And most of those changes will fall on the local jurisdictions to implement. Okay. So the next slide, I'm going to go through all of the changes that Proposal 22-2 passed. So of course, the one that is talked about most is early in-person voting, and I'll talk about that more. But the first is recognize the fundamental right to vote without harassing conduct. That's already a law that's on the book, but it just enshrines certain changes that were passed from Proposal 22 are now in our state constitution, where it's something that we already did do, now it's just enshrined in the Constitution. So require military and overseas ballots to be counted if postmarked by election day. The governor just signed a bill that cleared up that requirement, so if the local clerk receives it 6 days after the election, then we'll count that ballot. You know, of course, I know some of our clerks in this county have received a military ballot a year after an election. Obviously, we can't keep an election open indefinitely. So there, you know, so the governor did pass that legislation today. Voters have the right to verify their identity with photo ID or a signed statement. This is currently how we vote right now. Provide a voter the right to a single application to vote absentee ballot in all elections. So this is a big change that we'll see that our local clerks have to administer. You know, right now we have a permanent absentee application process. So if you are on this AV list, then you are automatically sent an application that you have to fill out, return to your clerk, then you receive a ballot to vote. With this, I think they're calling it single application to vote absentee ballot in all elections. So you'll fill out one application, then in all future elections, you will be sent a ballot no matter what. You don't have to resubmit that application every year. So our local clerks will now have to maintain both styles of lists. I assume that most people who vote absentee would switch to be on this absentee ballot in all future elections, but it will probably take time for people to switch over. Require state-funded absentee ballot drop boxes. That we won't see a huge change in our county. I think the only jurisdiction is the city of Bay City that has a population large enough to trigger that additional ballot box requirement. Provide that only election officials may conduct post-election audits. Me and my chief deputy are currently the only ones who conduct post-election audits, and now that's enshrined in law. Allow donations to fund elections. I also don't see a large change with that one. Require canvass boards to certify elections based only on the official records of votes cast. Again, not a huge change, but then the last one, 9 days of early voting. Okay. So early in-person voting is different than absentee voting. So currently, right now, or previously, you could go to your local clerk, ask for a ballot, they would give you a ballot, you'd fill that out and give it back to the local clerk, and then they wouldn't process or tabulate that ballot until election day. Now, for a minimum of 9 days, and you can see it's the second Saturday before election or the Sunday before the election, for state and federal elections, we have to have precincts set up where voters can actually go, vote their ballot, and insert it into a tabulator. So that is a major change in how we vote in the county right now. Ballots are tabulated, but results are not generated. So, you know, we put the ballots through the tabulator, but we don't actually know who's winning until election night. Municipalities within a county may share early voting sites hosted by a municipality or a county. That's important. So a lot of, I know you guys are all aware that a lot of our township clerks are small, work part-time hours. The way I think of this requirement of not at least 9 days of early voting is adding 9 additional precincts. So that's how many precincts the city of Bay City has. So we're pretty much doubling our largest jurisdiction within the county. I mean, we already struggle to find election inspectors. We already struggle just to, you know, administer 1 day of elections. So probably what we will see within the state is that municipalities lump together so they can share resources, share that staff, and, you know, have like a central site for early voting. And last, what we are waiting for right now. So my presentation is kind of just to give you a heads up on what Proposal 2 does, what it did. The reason why I'm not asking you for anything or telling you this is what we're doing is because we don't know quite yet. We're waiting for the state to pass implementation legislation to tell us exactly how we need to implement this early voting. I mean, there are so many details that we still don't know. How do we open the polls? How do we close the polls? What kind of equipment do we need? And we can't determine, our local jurisdictions can't determine how much this will cost until the state tells us what those requirements are. Also, this year and into next year, the Bureau of Elections will have to update their training materials. So I have to be an accredited election official. All of the local clerks have to be accredited in elections. I imagine that they'll have to implement all of these changes into those election materials. So they need to work on that. And then, of course, trainings. So we've been told by the state that they will offer quite a bit of training to make sure that everyone is on the same page when implementing not only early voting, but all of those other requirements from Proposal 2. But we'll need training for the local clerks, myself, our board of canvassers will have to be trained on these changes, and then, of course, precinct worker training. So, you know, I know this precinct for early voting is supposed to mirror exactly how we set up election day training, but there will be differences. So, you know, we'll have to make sure the workers that are working that precinct know exactly what they're doing. You know, I myself trained over 400 workers last year to work our elections just for election day. So we're gonna need to definitely get at least some of those people to work their early voting precincts, but definitely recruit new people and make sure that they're well-versed on the requirements of this early voting. Because the first election that we'll have to implement this is February, presidential primary. So sounds far away, but it's really not. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? That's one.
Yeah, so we were in Lansing last week, and they were talking about implementing it. So apparently this current law that was decided didn't have the money tied to it.
No, I only saw the headline, but this current law that was passed, I'm pretty sure only addresses the overseas ballots.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, Kathleen, do you perceive or think we might have a central location for the early voting? Would that be countywide, or maybe one in Northern Bay and one in the city, or what are your thoughts?
I think we need to see what the cost will be first, to see, you know, maybe there is some townships that think that they can feasibly implement that would be fine, but talking to most other counties in the state, and especially our surrounding counties, there will be a county-run precinct. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Yes, Lon.
So there was a vote today, and that was a local election, so it didn't require
Oh,
a setup
right.
like this.
Yep.
Just
Today
the,
is
presidential.
election day, Bangor Township, but you're right. Well, some of these changes did have to be implemented. I think the Dropbox change was, had to be in effect right now, but Bangor Township already has a Dropbox, so of course that didn't really affect them. But one of the larger changes that Bangor Township had to deal with on this election day was the state-funded postage for the application and the ballot. So in the future, the state will probably work with the postal service so that they can have like their own special envelopes. But they didn't have that worked out in time for this election. So I know Bangor Township had to pay for a lot of postage that probably wasn't used, because if someone drops off their ballot in person, then obviously it didn't need postage, but it was required that the township include postage on there, so.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Me again.
Yes.
So it sounds like you need some help. So I'm sure you come to us with a request for help.
Yeah, I'm hoping to come to you sooner rather than later, but I'm really waiting for that implementation legislation to be introduced. And then, yes, I will come to you with a lot more details. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Yeah, I need a motion to receive that presentation.
I'll move it.
Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item B, Kawkawlin River Dredge Project.
I'll move the resolution.
I'll support the resolution.
Any discussion? Yes, Tom?
Thank you. This has been batted around since sometime last year, maybe September, when they had 30 days to get it done, and then they had another 30 days to get it done, then another 30 days to get it done, another 30 days to get it done. And it comes back to the same thing, that not being planned very well for, because it's not like a one-year event. I mean, this is years in the making. And so I had to do a little running around. I talked to some people, and I find it amazing that it's really nice that all these people have a nice river view, but they never want to pay for it. I talked to people who live on different lakes and on canals, and they say, we get our stuff dredged once in a while, and then we just get a bill in the mail. And then I looked at up north, and I go, so I think, like in the 1st District, they have a couple drains up there. There's the Hopler Drain and the Waldo Drain that were just taken care of in the last couple of years. The 2,000 people, 2,000 voters, probably more than that because they're married, but 2,000 parcels that are on there, they're going to be assessed for the next 7 years because that's just the way it is. And when they get the drains cleaned, they get a bill. That's just part of what they do. It's just how it's done in the drain districts. So the drains are pretty clean before they even go into the river. But so those people have skin in the game. I think if you ask them if they're really happy about why do we pay and how come nobody else pays, they probably wouldn't be very happy about it. And I don't know. I've never talked to those people directly, but I know they're paying. I know that for sure because I got the numbers from both drains, and like I said, 7 years. That's a long time, and they have nothing. They just know it's a bill. They could be farmers, could be a business. It goes in the drain. They're going to pay. And then last year we had a group come in from Auburn when they wanted a lift station for their water supply. We took their presentation and we said, we'll receive it, but we're not giving you any money. You came in here, they wanted $210,000, and basically we received it, but we didn't do anything with it because we knew one of the things we always said is if we weren't going to do it for everybody, we're not going to do it for one. And now we're trying to get away from that. So they had $210,000 for a lift station in Auburn. We said, no, take it, figure out how to get it done, because that's what you're supposed to do. You run your own little thing there, and we'll take care of the county. We'll take care of our county infrastructure. I talked to the supervisor out in Mailette Township, and he goes, Tom, we got a lot of things we need done out here. He goes, but we know that you guys already said that you weren't going to give any money to anybody, and especially any ARPA money, because you're going to use it. It was all designated and not to even bother. And I said, that was correct, Dave. That's what we said. But sometimes things change. I went over to Hampton Township, and I said, Terry, I said, what are you doing? And she said, we really need to get Finn Road cleaned out. She says, that Finn Road launch site is our boats come all the time because this place is busy 365 days a year, and it needs to be cleaned. We have no money to do that. We can't even afford to have a spicer come in and do the engineering on it because we have no money. And I went, well, you're probably not going to have any now either. City of Essexville, they came in, the first ones that came and asked for ARPA money. They came in, filled out all the paperwork, they got everything done, they dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and we said, we can't do it for everyone, we're not doing it for one. So we're not doing it. And now they're going, well, what the heck? Why is this happening now? Hey, I'm only one person. There's nothing I can do about it, but talk to your commissioner. Maybe they can give you some insight as to why it's them and not you, because I don't know. I think, in the last year and a half, Bangor Township they just got $600,000 in marijuana money. They got $500,000 for ARPA money, and they had probably got another $600,000 last year in marijuana money. And you chose what to do with it. They chose to spend it on something else. We didn't choose it. We tried to choose wisely in everything we do with our ARPA money, everything we do with any money in the county, because, when I took this job, I said, I want to work for people, not one set of people, but all the people. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I do the best I can. I don't see this. I have a problem with almost like they didn't, it's like this came out of nowhere. Like, it did come out of nowhere. This thing has been going on for 7, 8 years because it has to be done every 7, 8 years. And you're going to come in and do the same thing, and most of us will be long gone. I mean, really long gone, but what's going to happen next time? It's going to happen again. They're going to say, we don't have any money. We got to get this done. We don't have any money. You got a state rep on the river. Why does he's been in there for years. When Mike Green got money for him last time, what happened? How come we didn't go after? How come they didn't go after that? We have a lot of people that have a lot of influence on that river, and they did nothing, except they came and asked for money. And it's wrong, because the people in my neighborhood, they know they want things done right, and they take care of their own. And out in Merritt Township, out in Portsmouth Township, they asked for money. They asked them, when I was at a meeting a couple months ago, they said, is there any ARPA money? I went, there's no ARPA money. I said, it's all spoken for. And we don't even know when we do this, we're going to be doing a project on top of at the Civic Arena, and we put a certain amount of money in there. We don't know if that's going to cover it. So if it doesn't cover it, and the bids are going out this month, if it doesn't cover it, so then we got to go to general fund and cover the rest of it. That's not the way that was supposed to work. Because we had used the ARPA money. We said, well, if we have extra, we'll make sure we got enough to cover it in the end, and we won't have to go to the general fund to do it. And we don't, and maybe it will, and maybe it will cover it, but we don't know that answer right now. There's a lot of questions that are answered, and in all these other townships, and we said we would treat you equally. Well, if we're going to treat them equally, let's give them. Then let's do it. Let's not give it all to one. That's what we want to do right now. I can't vote for this thing because it singles out one entity that I think, to me, mismanaged what they had and didn't put their priorities in the right place. And until they could come and say, why don't you create an assessment district for that, maybe that would change things. But they won't do that because people won't pay it. They said, no, we're not going to do that. But that's what needs to be done. That's what's in every other place where people live on the rivers or on the lakes. They have assessment districts, and they take care of what they have. You take a house that's on that river and move it 3 blocks away, it's probably worth 1/3 less. So you get a little bit. There's a little bit of love that goes with being on the river there. You pay a little bit more. I know you tax a little bit more, but there's a reason for it, and you get a little bit more when you sell too. Anyways, I could go. I just probably skipped half the things I want to talk about. It kind of upsets me. I lose sleep over it. I don't like the idea of what's going on because we treated everybody not equally. We treated them unequally. And we're taking from the poor and we're giving to the rich right now. Exactly the way we're the opposite of Robin Hood. We're the Robin Hood antithesis. So that's just what it is, and I'm not happy with it. But sometimes there's nothing you can do except speak your piece and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, Vaughn.
So when people give you money, it's hard. So the Corps of Engineers must have figured out it needs to be dredged. I mean, that's where it all started. It wasn't our idea. We didn't bring this idea forward. It was $564,300 that the Corps of Engineers said they're going to give us. So this is not our project, this is Bangor Township's project, so we give this money, the rest is on them, it's on the townships. We've been talking to some of the townships that are on that side that benefit from the drainage. There's a lot of flooding that goes up in Monitor Township, up 4 Mile and Wheeler area. It's washed away their park up there a couple times, and we would hopefully get some support from them and from Bangor and Kawkawlin or whatever else. Even Franklin drains into the Kawkawlin River. So, you know, it's not our project, it's the Corps of Engineers project, it's Bangor Township's project. We have ARPA money and we have given to individuals. We gave money to the Bay Veterans Foundation. And I worked with Williams Township about their lift station, and they have found money, by the way. We put it back on them, and they did find money for the lift station. So this money is laying on the table. This is not our project. This is Bangor Township's project. We're just chipping in our portion of it, and they still got a couple $100,000, and this project may not even come to fruition if they can't raise the money. So still on the table. So that's why I'm voting for it.
Thank you, Vaughn. Anyone else? Yes, Casey.
So reading the last line, that related budget adjustments, if required, are approved. To me, I am interpreting this as an open-ended resolution, and that's why I am currently uncomfortable with the way that it is written. For example, if the project goes over budget, let's say there's an extra $500,000 that are needed, it's approved without board input. That's the way that the last line reads.
Okay.
Can I?
Yes.
Amber, could you explain that? Because I did ask you about that before the meeting.
Sure, and I don't know if you'd rather, okay.
Somebody, okay.
Any budget adjustments that are required as necessary simply gives approval for the amount that has been approved in the resolution. It will not go above that amount. The reason that it's stated in the plural is because at any given time, you don't know if you're going to need to pull from more than one line item in order to get that money, if there's going to be more than one budget adjustment, and that's why it is written that way. But if you are going to request, if the project does go over and they want additional money from the board, they would be required to come back to the board in order to get those additional funds. Those budget adjustments only apply to the amount that has been approved in the resolution.
Thank you, Amber. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes, Tom.
I guess I want to know, you know, I don't understand what the answer is for everybody who played by the rules and are getting nothing. You know, they did everything they're supposed to do, and we're telling them no. There's something wrong with that. You know, how about sometimes, and it probably won't happen today, how about we try to do the right thing sometime, you know, instead of just the wrong thing. You know, people get a lot of, you get a lot of calls, you get a lot of pressure. But and research tells me, you know, like they did all these places like Essexville, even I know, and even though Vaughn, I get where they got their money, but they went and looked for it too. That's why they got it. You know, they didn't just sit on their hands and say, "Whoa, boy, you know, what are we going to do?" They went and got it. And everybody who needed money, you know, and so the other part of that is like Ron Campbell said, "Boy, I hope they know what they're doing. They might be opening up a can of worms here by doing something like that." I went, I can tell you, really, Ron, is the way I can go on this, you know. And he goes, "Yeah, I know." I went, "Okay, just so you know." So that's kind of where that falls, you know. All those poor people up in the first district, you know, that just 7-year drain assessment, they get nothing. You know, they got to make sure the water flows past their house. That's all. But they get paid for it. They pay for it for the next 7 years. 2,000 families. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Forrest Gump.
Okay, is there anyone else? Yes, Colleen.
Okay, so I am going to vote for it only because it's for flood management dredging. So if you've ever lived in an area where your home has water running through it, you'd probably interpret this a little bit differently. And I don't think we're going to open a can of worms and have every township coming here for everything. This is a one-time thing, in my opinion, And going forward, Bangor Township and the neighboring townships need to find resolutions within themselves on how to work this out going forward. But I will support it this time.
Thank you.
Me,
Tom
I have a
McKenna.
question for
Three times,
I have a
Tom.
question for the attorney.
Did he say he was done?
How would they, if going forward, as Kathleen said, if what would be a way they could capture some of this money from the people who live on, take part in this, the whole thing? What would they have to do, create a drain district?
I am very hesitant to give legal advice because I don't know this off of the top of my head. I do know that special assessment districts can be formed for a variety of purposes. I believe that there is an assessment district, I could be wrong, that is on the Kawkawlin right now for weed prevention and control. But the most reasonable thought process would be some sort of assessment district, whether it could be a multi-jurisdictional assessment district that could cover different townships that suffer from the flooding could be a possibility. But I want to just stress, as you asked the question, that would not be a county project. That would be something that would be up to the individuals that are located within whatever jurisdiction is in the assessment district. That is not something that would be governed by the county.
Is that a drain commissioner thing?
I don't
really know.
believe so. It's a natural waterway.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing,
Yes, Tom.
I'm almost done.
Goodness.
The other thing, I'm really disappointed that the supervisor who is so gung-ho on this didn't show up today. I don't know if that was his plan, hopefully maybe he said it's just going to go, I don't know. But I would think that for somebody who was that involved in it and wanted that bad, that he would be here.
Okay.
No, I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, Vaughn.
He could have brought his funnel back, right? The funnel thing? So anybody up the river is affected by a special assessment district, you got to get 50%, 51% of, I believe, of the people to agree to that special assessment district. Do you think that's going to happen? No. It's probably been looked at before, but I don't think you're going to get 51% of the people to vote for a special assessment for this purpose. So that's, and a lot of people are affected by the flooding. It goes up to Franklin, it goes up to Monitor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of flooding. So that's what this is for. That's why the Corps of Engineers started the project. We didn't start this project. They offered us some money.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you. And yes, Jim.
History to it. I was at the meeting in 2017, I believe, when we had massive flooding, the strong northwest winds, and the lake level was very high, if you remember, on Lake Huron. And so the strong northwest wind that pushes the water up the Kawkawlin River. I remember seeing a drone photograph of castaways that was literally surrounded by water, a couple of feet of water. And I know at that time, Senator Stabenow came and met. She attended a meeting in Bangor Township at the Bay Area Water Authority building and said she would try to help. Was discussed, what could the federal government do? And it took quite a while before they passed the WRDA bill, which is the big water infrastructure bill, and it also authorizes the Corps of Engineers dredgings, and she got that money included in the Corps of Engineers funding. And to take advantage of that, as the chairman said, we would have to somehow, either Bangor or the residents or the county would have to come up with a matching fund. Otherwise, the money will not be spent. I think before this project would be done, probably be 18 months to 2 years. Takes quite a while to get the permits and find a site for the spoils that have to be placed somewhere in a landfill that won't contaminate, because there is arsenic in all sediment, river sediment. But, that's sort of the history, Tom, and I know that at the time the flooding was pretty severe in Bay County, and this was considered as an option. And took, Senator Stabenow a while to come through with an amendment in the WRDA bill, but it passed, I think, a year or so ago. And we have sort of put off the decision. I know I've had some conversations with the Corps, and it's been they gave us additional time to see if the money could be found to come up with the 50% match. So it's up to the, up to the board, but there are more people impacted than just riverfront dwellers. There are a lot of people, especially the farmers, that have fields flooding, and I know on the Tebow drain, I think we had several homes actually collapsed into the big drain, and that drain hadn't been maintained, according to Drain Commissioner Rivet at the time, since 1956 or 1958, I think. But yeah, it was in pretty bad shape. So overall, I think it's an issue that county residents, would probably benefit from if the county board, feels that that's the proper use of the money. And also, it would not be sufficient. $350,000 is about $200,000 short, as Ron pointed out. So I'm not sure if the townships will come up with the balance on that, or if the proponents will come back later for additional money to come up with a match, the 50% match.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Yes, Vaughn?
Could I ask the chair to speak on this a little bit, because he's been on that water authority and filter strips and other things that are being done?
Yes, I would like to have Laura. Is Laura?
Laura is here.
Would you like to come up and?
And also about contaminants also.
Yes, the contaminants that we have at the mouth.
It's yours. It was left.
Thank you, Laura.
Last meeting, I think, and all that. It's a pencil.
Yes, I'm sorry, what specifically was there a
Filter
question?
strips or
Filter
other
strips?
remediation and contamination also.
Okay, so the Kawkawlin is known for contamination in the sediments out along the river course. And it is a natural waterway, so it's not like a drain. It's not a drain, under that jurisdiction. It's not a utility either, where, I know it was mentioned about when Auburn was looking for some utility funding. We knew that there was infrastructure, a whole, bi-party infrastructure funding that was coming in for Auburn. But for the Kawkawlin River, that sediment that is in there now does come in from two different sources. Moves downstream, but it also comes in from the bay. And as Mr. Barsha mentioned, flooding just from wind, that water pushing into that river and into our shoreline brings a lot of sediment. I would say there's been analyses over the last 10 years that over 70% of the sediment in the Saginaw Bay is from wind-blown erosion. So it's not just coming in from those folks along the river. It's not just coming in from those folks in Bangor Township. It's coming in from around the bay. And not just necessarily Bay County. So that sediment washing up into and almost closing off the mouth of that river right now is from a variety of sources. As far as contamination, it's known as, it's documented as an impaired water body because of contaminated sediments. That sediment here will have to be tested, and it could, add cost to this existing project. But I will say, I've heard that discussion, and I know this is, even people who may be voting for it, they're conflicted. But to not support this project will affect all of Bay County. When Bay County flooded, it was the Kawkawlin River that was located in Bay County that flooded. It wasn't like Bangor Township. We have federal assistance. Jim had mentioned that meeting that our U.S. Senator was there. The feds, you hear that expression, well, make a federal case out of it. This has been a federal case. Both the feds and at FEMA have identified this as a priority. The folks at Army Corps of Engineers have identified this as a priority. This funding doesn't come quickly, so it's been in the works for a while. And quite honestly, and as whatever your thoughts are about helping support Bangor Township in this funding quest for this project. If we don't support, if this project doesn't move forward for whatever reason, all of Bay County, there will be costs to Bay County. There won't be obvious costs, but that flooding will, flood insurance will increase throughout Bay County. The units, the hydrologic units that the feds look at isn't like at the township level. They're looking at the county level, as well as if the feds have made an appropriation for a project and that project doesn't move forward, the whole county for future federal funding requests can be impacted. It does not look favorable to the whole county. It's not just the local unit. And so there would be some other impacts, financial impacts to all of Bay County if the project doesn't move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions to Laura? Okay, thank you, Laura. Any other questions from the commissioners before we vote on this?
Yeah.
Yes, Tom,
I'm
number
gonna say
5.
the last thing.
Okay.
I'm not dead set, the project is not what I'm dead set against. I'm against the way it was handled on the local level through the township. I think that the planning was poor. I think, we could have done more for everybody else in the county, if the ARPA money wasn't there, we'd really be screwed. But it's just the whole process that they use, and I wish we could do more for everybody else. I understand that we can't, but do I think that it probably does need to be done, but I don't like the way it was handled. That's my biggest beef. Thank you. That's all. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, can we have a roll call?
Tim?
Yes.
And
Yes, Casey.
thank you, Laura, for speaking. Something that resonated with me recently, the catastrophe in a neighboring county with the Midland Dam. So that's now a concern. So with the flooding, it is a big issue. So I appreciate you speaking to us.
Thank you, Casey. Can we have a roll call, please?
Radtke,
Yes.
Nemec,
Yeah.
Mailette,
Yes.
Herek,
I'm going to say no.
Hoyer,
Yes.
Begic,
Yes.
Banaszak,
Yes. Okay, 6-1, motion carries. Okay, item C, reservation of green space for community center pool space.
I'm going to move that.
Pardon me?
Support.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Jeez.
Item D, Bay County Prosecutor Crime Victims' Right Grant Agreement for 20-year 2023, 2024.
Motion approved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Bay County Sheriff, item E, Pinconning Area School Resource Officer Agreement for the year 2023, 2024.
Move it.
Support.
Any discussion? Yes, Kathy.
I was wondering about, it says the amount to be determined. Is this sure?
I can speak to this. The
Yes.
sheriff actually called me before the meeting and asked if I could answer any questions for him because he had a meeting with the new head of the Michigan State Police Post
Okay.
at the same time as our meeting. The amount to be determined is because it is generally it's a renewal of the same agreement that we had last year. It's going to relate to what the current salary is of the police officer or the deputy that is assigned to the district.
Okay.
It's yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposing, none. Motion carries. Item E2, Bay City Public Schools Resource Officer Agreement for the year 2023 and 2024.
Motion approved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposing, none. Motion carries. Item E3, Bangor Township and Bangor School Resource Officer Agreement for the year 2023, 2024.
I moved it.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposing, none. Motion carries. Item E4, MMRMA RAP grant application for the purpose of an X-ray full body scanner.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item F, Emergency Management Coordinator for the year 2020 Homeland Security Grant for the 2023 fire pagers.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Yes, Vaughn?
So Mr. Matt is here. So from my days on the EPC, it seems like we're talking about these pagers a lot. So this is the latest iteration of the...
Yes, they've been looking for funding to start getting replacement pagers for several years now. They've been trying for the firefighter grants at the federal level and keep missing that opportunity. This money is coming through the Department of Homeland Security, through the Region 3 Homeland Security Planning Board, and the local planning team, the MABUS, which is the fire chiefs group, the Homeland Security Planning Board have all agreed that this is a good project that helps that stopgap for them. What they're doing is replacing the oldest of the pagers, and it's up to the fire chiefs group to determine which municipalities get those first. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, anyone else for Ryan? Okay, thank you, Ryan. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item G, Manager, Bay County Animal Services and Adoption Center, reduced fee adoption events.
So
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item H, Director, Department of Aging, letter of intent to Region 7, AAA.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item 1, Finance Officer, analysis of General Fund Equity 2023.
Motion received.
Support.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item L2, update regarding Executive Directive 2027-11. 2007-11.
Motion received.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion received. Item 1.3, credit applications.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item J, payables.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Any referrals? Any unfinished business? Any new business? Amber, we need a closed session at this time? Thank you. Any miscellaneous? Is there any announcements?
Motion adjourned.
Yes,
Oh,
just,
sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
yes, Kathy.
I just wanted to share that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and they are having on Thursday, May the 18th, with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, a program of Stay Well, and I think it's on the screen there, so that you can check that out also. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Motion adjourned.
Support.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.